black preacher in the black church, that comes from West African Islamic tradition, right? Where you have a sheikh, you know, and he runs a community in West Africa. You had all of these different nations, you had these different wars, but one thing constant was you had these scholars of these Quran schools, and they ran communities, and they were seen as more than just somebody come lead the prayer, right? So in church, the pastor, he was more than just a clergyman. He was all that and then some. He did a lot more than just preach. You know what I'm saying? He was looked to for his leadership, right? And also the sisters, like, African American women have been very involved in everything in the black community. And the West African Muslims women, you could go down a list of names of Muslim women that were like scholars of Maliki fiqh, teachers of the Quran, ran communities in the absence when their husbands died, or ran them just because they was just that dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And that motherly church thing that we thought was just an African American thing. So the sister says civil rights. There is no movement in America like the civil rights movement. Like, people sell it short, but there is no movement in America like that. Like, where women and men was basically on the same they was basically on the same platforms, doing the same things with each other, not fighting against each other. Like, there is no Black Panther Party without the sisters in the Black Panther sisters. There's not. There is no Nation of Islam without the Nation of Islam, the women of the Nation of Islam. There's not. There is no Nation of Islam without Sister Claire Muhammad. Right? There is these things, and this is the African way. Ask Baba. Let them know. Let them know about West Africa, because sometimes we think that we developed these things here. We brought this type of thing with us here, to where people have platforms and they share them, men and women. And it's the same. The African American masjids, they don't have the same issues that with what they call, like, what's that? What do they call patriarchy? Whatever. That don't exist for the African American Muslims. I mean, if it does, not to the extent that it does in some other mosques. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's always going to be problems, but I'm saying, like, for the most part, the West African way and the African way is a very, very welcoming way. You know what I'm saying? That's not to try to say anything bad about anybody else. I'm just saying that these are things that these are like anthropologists. If they look at these things, they'll see the connections. You read a book like the Walking Quran, and you read that book, and in your mind, think about the civil rights movement and how those churches were sanctuaries against what was happening to black people in the South. In the same way that those Quran schools and the Walking Quran are sanctuaries, you know what I'm saying, for what was happening during the slave days and during colonialism. And so this is what's developed the black imam and the black masjid. So it's not the same. Like, we're not going to have a lot of the same fixtures, because the imam, it means something to black people. Like, we're not going to expect you to just come give a khutbah, teach a class, and go home. It's like, bruh, you got to help us with our social problems. You got to help. You got to have an economic plan. How are you going to grow wealth in this community? That's what people looking for. And they said, when you say somebody's an imam and he's black, and you say somebody's a pastor, he's a bishop, and he's black, it ain't just about praying for people. It's like, no, man, We expect you to have some answers to these crises, right? And so what happens to us as African American Muslims is sometimes we lose sight of that. And we get stuck in some debates, archaic debates about things that separate and divide us, right? So most Muslims be like, Muslims don't, we all divided, man. We don't agree on stuff. And then I'd be like, okay, which Muslims don't believe that Allah is the only God? I ain't ran